what's up? What's up? Welcome to the Wealth Exchange. It's your man, Ed from Jackson, your licensed financial coach and your guide to kingdom wealth building. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is going to be a fantastic episode. You know what we always say, we are here to exchange information, exchange ideas, all to help you grow in your wealth and your spirituality. Today, oh my goodness, today is going to be a good one. I got a man here. He's going to tell you an awesome story about how he was able to reclaim his finances, to go from bankruptcy to just living way better with the finances. I know a lot of people are going to be encouraged by his story, so I cannot wait to just dive in and just get to talking to him. Please welcome to the show today, Craig Fawcett, financial coach. Craig Fawcett, welcome, Craig. How are you doing, my man?
I'm wonderful, Ephraim. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share with the people and hopefully encourage them, knowing that they too can find success at the end of a troubling time.
Oh man, this is so important now, especially, we're coming on the tail end of 2020, and there's been so much craziness going on in the world. A lot of people are hurting from job loss and all kind of stuff, man. So, there might be somebody out there watching right now saying, I'm in a situation, I don't know how I'm going to turn this around or how I'm going to come out of it. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because I think your story is so inspirational, and I think it's something that people need to hear. So let's just dive in, man. Just tell the folks kind of a little bit about yourself and and let's kick it off.
Yeah, well, it was 20 odd years ago, and I was pretending. I was in a company, and the company was teaching us fake it till you make it. And I was faking it.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yeah. It's funny. I was looking at something earlier tonight where people were talking about, oh, this person says debt is a tool. And all these companies try and get you to use debt. They tend to get you into debt without a way to get out. And that's what happened to me. I got into debt. I kept trying to do this stuff and make this happen and make that happen. And nothing was happening, except I was going further and further into debt.
Right. And
I just got in a situation where I had a perfect storm. I had a piece of hair in my eye.
That didn't lead to the debt though, right?
No, that wasn't the debt. So I had a situation where I had a ton of credit card debt. I had a condo I needed to get out of. I had a car I couldn't afford. I was everywhere. The only thing I didn't have was student loan. I was one of those people I went to college before student loans became the big thing.
Oh, gotcha.
It was not that expensive back when I went to school. And
you kind of dating yourself a little bit there, but that's okay.
Leave me alone. Well, Florida's one of the least expensive states back then too, so that was helpful. I did go to school in Tampa, Florida.
That's
Go
awesome.
Bulls, USF. So I ended up in a situation where I had no option, and I went and met an attorney and filed bankruptcy. It actually was funny. Before that, I'd gone to one of the credit counselors, and the credit counselor makes you sign a piece of paper that says, we cannot recommend bankruptcy. 5 minutes later, the guy recommended bankruptcy to me.
He broke his own rule.
That should have been a sign right there, shouldn't it? So I ended up filing bankruptcy, and I'll tell you what, the worst part of it, it was a mental anguish I went through, because I felt ashamed. I grew up better than that, and I just had all this guilt and condemnation, and I just needed to change.
How old were you when that happened?
27 or 8.
Oh man, I can imagine for a 27-year-old, you're getting started with life, and then you get hit with all this stuff at one time. I can definitely see the mental toll that could take, man.
Yeah, and so, I had to breathe. Fortunately, I was in a great church, and my pastor, Pastor Greg Poe, the late Pastor Greg Poe, he said all the time, "I will not quit, therefore I cannot be defeated." That was one of the things he always taught us.
Yeah.
And so at the church, we had a first-time home buyers class. So I went and joined that. And I joined that thinking, after my bankruptcy, hopefully I can buy a house someday. And I got in there, and the class was not about first-time home buyers. It was about changing your mental focus on wealth and on money. And it was great. It was exactly what I needed. I went through it. I liked it so much, I decided to stick around. Started helping people, bringing them water. Eventually started teaching.
It's that servant's heart. I like that.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I first started and then I learned a little bit and got to teach a little bit, and then I learned a little more and taught a little more. And at one point I was the director of the classes.
Awesome.
And we helped a lot of people through the years. I think the best part was this: we helped a lot of people who were the first people in their family to ever buy a house.
Wow. Wow.
And that to me was huge. And we were dealing with people that had no home training as far as how to build wealth,
yeah,
and how to create a legacy and do for your family. And so we got to share some information that we learned, and we learned from experiences, and then we learned from listening to other people. So we were listening to Dave Ramsey back then, and we were doing some things and moving forward, and we helped a lot of people. My wife and I, when we first met, one of the first third or fourth time we were out, we started talking about financial stuff. And she said, well, I got to tell you this about me. And I said, okay. And then I said, well, I got to tell you this about me. I filed bankruptcy a few years back.
Oh, wait a minute. You said this was the third date in? You were talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Wow.
Third or fourth date.
Most people are like trying to still pretending around third or fourth date. That's pretty awesome.
Actually, it was good. And
yeah, that's good.
Again, I'll go back to the church we were in. The pastor, another thing he always said was investigate before you invest.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. So, I was expecting her to ask me for a credit report. So I wanted to tell her what was on it in advance. Right.
Yeah.
I knew she was going to pull a police record on me, make sure I didn't have a record.
Right. We don't need anybody getting crazy guys walking around.
Yeah. Listen, you know that if you don't take care of looking out for things, you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
And, I'm old enough now. I've seen some friends who've lost their life or ended up in big trouble because they did some stuff way too wrong because they didn't pay attention to the details.
But no, I just love that because most people, I got in a conversation. I was on a Clubhouse chat doing some talks there with folks, and we had gotten a conversation about, hey, when should you reveal, find finances to each other? And so we kept getting back and forth. I love that you talked about it that early. That's amazing.
It was good, and you know what? It was freeing.
Yeah, yeah.
But the best part of it is that conversation went further to both of us had a vision for hitting the millionaire status.
Yeah.
Both of us had a vision for being out of debt, and both of us had a vision for owning a home and doing all these things. So our visions lined up, and the vision. We had a strong pastor, and he was teaching us from the church that you should expect this.
Yeah.
One of his declarations, and I keep going back, Pastor Poe was a huge influence in my life, but he always said, every member of this church should own at least one house, 1 acre of land, and reach millionaire status. That was his declaration for the church.
I like it.
And we received it.
Yeah.
Moving forward, my wife and I, we got married.
Now, were you still dealing with the bankruptcy at that time? Like when you met her, or had that already kind of passed by then?
It had passed, but I hadn't made huge steps past it moving forward. So we got married. I had a house because after going through the home buyers class, I was able to buy a house. That's a whole different story. I could share that one too. But bought a house. She got a job over an hour away. So we sold that house and moved to another one. And just started working on things.
Wow.
Started working on our finances, started looking into, building wealth, paying off all the little things that we owed and the big things, and doing what it took just to put ourselves in a different financial place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
you did the hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. And then one day we were listening to, I believe it was Gary Cassie, and he was talking about picking up the scraps. And my wife was praying and said, okay, God, what do we need to do? And he said, you just heard, pick up the scraps. And so we started looking and saying, all right, what do we need to do different?
Yeah.
Turn the lights off in every room. Turn the air up 1 degree.
Yeah.
And that's hard in Florida because, it gets hot down here. Do things like this. Look at where you're going when you shop. we were spending $1,200 and $1,500 a month on groceries.
Yeah.
That's when we had a family of 4. Now we have a family of 5, and the first 2 are older teenagers now. And, you know, we spend maybe $100 a week on groceries now.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is we're not out at just buying pre-made stuff. We cook.
Right.
We don't heat.
You know, I like what you just said that you just dropped the gem, man. So here's the rules for when you come on the podcast. When you drop a gem, I gotta interrupt because I just can't let those gems go by. That you said something, pick up the scraps, and it reminds me of that story where Jesus fed the thousands with the bread and loaf, and he said afterwards, he said, go pick up what's remaining as well, to be attentive to even the small pieces that are remaining. Right. So I thought that's so good because it's kind of like slowly changing your mindset too a little bit.
Yeah, and when God gave us that word, you know, one word from God can change your life. And God gave us that word, and we started making changes, and things just changed quickly.
Yeah,
things changed real quickly, and we had to hear from God on certain things. When we sold that one house, not sold it, but we moved out of that house that we had bought, we moved into a new house. We had saved up some money, got 20% down, bought a new house. The old house, this was 2013, so it still hadn't recovered from the decline in 2008.
Yeah.
We were still upside down because we had bought in 2004. So God said, rent it. So we rented it. And then when he said time to sell, we sold it.
Yeah.
And timing was beautiful for us. It helped us significantly, and it fulfilled a promise that God had made to my wife that house would be a big part of our wealth, and it was. Right. And it was a small little 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a not so great neighborhood. And, you know, we just had to trust God, and we did.
Right. So it's kind of like making these moves, listening to God, making these adjustments as you kept working together is how you kind of, righted the ship and started moving slowly past the bankruptcy and moving past where you were to kind of move you to a better situation.
Yeah. And you just hit a gem. Working together. Men, include your wives.
Oh, yeah.
Us men are so independent. We don't want to include our wives in anything, but they're there to help us. And when we don't include them, we're missing it.
And vice versa, women include your husbands.
I agree with that. But the women are more open to talk about things like that. Us men are, we get that male ego kicking in, and we want to do it all.
Oh, that's so true, man. There's so much in what you're saying right now, man. There's so much I want to unpack. So let me go back because I want to go back to the beginning of the story a little bit, and then we'll come back to where we just left off. So you talked about something that was really good, my man. You mentioned about pretending and being fake, and that's what got you into the debt and the credit cards. Right. We got to unpack that a little bit, bro, because that's so powerful. Because I think that's the root behind what leads a lot of people into debt, because they don't know who they really are. And when you don't know who you are, you will take on the values and the esteems of other people and what other people value, whether that's certain cars, certain clothing, certain things. You will dig yourself in a hole trying to figure out who you are. trying to pretend. So talk a little bit about that. Like what led you to buy certain things or do certain things? What you mentioned that pretending. I just got to go back to that.
Well, okay. So the company I was in was a network marketing company. And so we would travel for seminars, and you had to have a certain suit. So I was buying suits on credit cards. I was buying product on credit cards. I was buying and doing more than I had. And I was running around the country, acting like I was doing great when I was struggling. And, I'd come home and there'd be 32 calls on the caller ID box, if you remember those. I'm aging myself again.
Unfortunately, I remember them too, so I'm dated right there with you.
No, there'd be 32 missed calls from creditors, and and that was stressful too. That was a stressful time, like I mentioned. But I was pretending, and part of that pretending, I look at people now and they talk about not having any money, but they got $250 pair of shoes on.
Yeah.
Right, but shoes are what we call a depreciating asset. I don't even know if you want to classify them as an asset, but shoes are depreciating. Whereas, if you go buy or put some money in a mutual fund or your 401k, that's an asset.
Right.
If you go save some money so you can buy a rental house, that's an asset. And what people don't understand today is this. Those Jordans or those LeBron shoes or whoever shoes they've got, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those shoes aren't building them anything. But if they would put that same amount of money aside, they could go buy an investment house.
Yeah, that's the message I needed to hear when I was in my 20s and early 18s. That and if I can press upon any parents out here watching, if you got teenagers, you got younger kids, people in their 20s, college people, they are fighting right now with this concept of identity and wanting to belong and fitting in. And society is just trying to mold our young people a certain way, right?
Right.
And this is the opportunity that we have now to impress upon them some of these kind of values, and that is really going to be beneficial to their life. So this whole concept, man, is just so powerful. We're gonna have to come back and talk about that a whole nother time. Because you have teenagers, so right? Or you have.
Well, here's something funny. I've been out and I've had teenage kids make fun of my clothes, right? and I'll look at them and I'll put them in their place. I'll say, you know what? I got more money in the bank than you would know what to do with.
Right.
You might have those shoes on, but you don't have any money in your pocket.
Right.
I got plenty of money. So it doesn't matter. This shirt, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? None of that. The shoes I wear shoes that look decent, but don't cost an arm and a leg.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to, you can go buy $1,000 shoes.
Yeah.
Or you can buy a pair of $60 or $70 shoes that look about the same and do about the same.
Yeah. No, that's so good, man. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have that just to unpack that whole identity and money thing. We're gonna have to just break open that suitcase and just let that one go loose. But I want to get back to your story though, because I don't want to sidetrack and say I just had to go back to that because I just thought that was so good, that concept of pretending, and that's what leads people sometimes into debt. So take us back to the story.
The biggest thing in our story is once we started getting ahead of things, God put some significant scriptures into us. One of them, and I got it right here. I wrote it down. Luke 6:38. Almost everybody listening to this, I'm sure, has heard it. Right. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and runneth over. Right? I was listening to Jesse Duplantis today. Mm-hmm. And he was reading that scripture and he said, give. He said, that's the only thing you have to worry about. All the rest is up to God. But that first step is up to you. So what God started doing to us is having us sow. And we sowed our way out of debt.
You got to say that one again. No, I think they missed that one.
We sowed our way out of debt. When God said give into something, we gave. We got into a point where every month we were sowing into our pastors. Not the church, not the tithe, not the offering, but over and above, just handing some money to the pastor. And then God said, hey, go give into this ministry and go give into that. So now we're sending to multiple ministries every month that are feeding us. We're sowing seed into them.
Right. And you're doing this while you were still moving out of debt at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That'll preach right there. But
well, listen.
Because a lot of people think, just to unpack that, a lot of people will say, oh, I am in debt right now, so I can't give. I have to use everything I have. But you looked at it, which I agree with it 100% because I did the same thing, is that no, if I'm in debt, I'm still going to be listening to the word of the Lord. I still have a duty to give. So that's just amazing. So I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, and the giving freed us. It gave us a freedom because when you're getting out of debt, that's you taking care of you. It's a selfish thing.
Woo.
When you give to somebody else, that's selfless.
Oh man, that's a bar right there, bro. You just
that selflessness is just so beneficial to your walk, to your peace, and to your freedom.
Yeah.
And when you did that, and then you get out of debt, you've got a freedom there.
Yeah.
And the Bible says whom the Son sets free is free indeed. And, when you don't have any creditors, life is good.
Yeah.
Life is good.
Let's talk about that, because that's so good what you're talking about right here. Because I want people to paint the picture of what it was in the emotions, because what it was before and what it's like now to have that freedom. Because you mentioned coming home to 32 messages and all that stuff on the phone, the creditors waiting for you. What is that freedom like now? Like, was the sacrifice? Because a lot of people are like, man, I can't sacrifice like you sacrifice. Oh, I can't do, that's so hard. But the sacrifice is worth it, isn't it?
The sacrifice is worth it. Let me go back to what that 32 messages from creditors was like. That was stress.
Yeah.
In my days in college and just after, I was playing soccer at a very high level. I was fit. After I got done, I didn't change my eating habits enough, and I wasn't running as much. So I put on a few pounds. When I was going through that stressful time, though, I lost weight back to the days like when I was in high school.
Wow.
The stress was just eating me up. I had to get to the point where that wasn't the case anymore. I mean, I did. And then, of course, I did the normal guy thing. We got a little too big, right?
I've been there, done that.
So now I'm taking all those carbs and trying to get rid of them and, minimizing them. And I'm getting fit again. But the stress that put on my life, it was just significant. And at the time, you didn't realize it, because most of the time when you're going through something, you're so stuck looking at what you're going through, you can't see the big picture.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about the helicopter view. If you were in the helicopter up there looking down at you and could see the way out, right? Just picture somebody in a maze. They can't see the way out, but somebody in a helicopter can.
Right, from the bigger view looking down. That's so true.
Yeah. When you're going through it, right? If you're in debt right now and you're going through it, it's hard. But let me tell you this, don't quit. Take steps. And you know what? If this month you pay your minimum plus $1, and next month it's your minimum plus $2, and the month after that it's a minimum plus $3, you're stepping in the right direction. Now, I hope you can do a lot more than that. But if you can't, do something. Do something over and above that minimum, because that minimum is just going to keep you stuck. And you're going to be like a rat on a wheel.
Yeah, I think you just blessed somebody with that, man, because
I hope so.
Because people need to, because I think what helps you get out of debt, to fight, to make the sacrifices. Like me and my wife had to make sacrifices to pay off 40, 50 something $1,000 of debt in a couple of years. We had to make sacrifices. And I think to get people to the point where they're willing to make those sacrifices, they have to have a vision beyond where they are now.
Right.
Because when you're going through it, right, and when you're trying to dig your way out, it's hard to envision something better. And so, but having that vision is what keeps you moving, and listening to God. That's what keeps you motivated. Keep saying, no, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm like you said, I'm going to get out of this maze. I may have ran into a wall today. I may have hit another wall the next day, but I'm eventually going to find my way out as long as I keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's so good.
The scripture says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And we had a vision of being millionaires while we were in debt, while we were broke, while we were coming out of it. So because we had that vision, we had a different mindset. And we didn't have the mindset of, oh, I gotta drive this car, wear this watch, put on these shoes to impress people. We had the mindset of, we got to look at every penny so that we can make sure they go where they need to go, so that we can achieve our goal of being wealthy. Yeah.
But that's why the giving and what you're saying is so important, because all that is shaping your mindset. It's moving you a certain direction. And so that's why it's so important. Like you were saying, take those small steps, because those small steps are shaping your mind. Because you may not be the person, if you're listening or watching it, wherever you're getting this message from, you may not right now be the person who saves a lot of money. You may not right now be the person who is 100% out of debt. but you have to become that person. In order to become that person, you have to start thinking like how that person would think and start doing the things like that person would do, so that as you slowly start moving and moving and moving, you will become that person. You changed your mind, and in the process of changing your mind and connecting more with God, that is what helped you get out of that maze, as it were.
Yeah, and it did. It
Yeah.
really helped us get out of the maze. It helped us move forward and push through. And then once you push through, there's a freedom to that, as you can imagine.
So how much debt did you guys eventually end up paying off?
That's a great question. There's a bunch of different times at different debts. We were about $100,000 in non-mortgage debt.
Yeah.
And then, at one point we had mortgages with over $300,000 worth of debt. And, we were able to fight through it all.
Right.
Praise God.
Awesome. No, that's amazing, my man. That's an amazing story. And I want to go back to the while you were in the process of getting all this debt knocked out, the hundreds of $1,000s of debt. Did you ever hit a patch where it started getting really rough, and where you were like, man, or did you say, no, we're doing this once you got that mindset? Or did you run into some tough times where it was just like, man, you got tough to keep fighting to get you knocked out?
Well, Ephraim, I know you're a man of God, so Satan's not going to just sit by and let you just cruise.
Right.
Okay.
So because I want to keep it 100 with the people listening. I want, the people listening, we paint this picture like, yeah, you're going to just make your mindset shift and everything's just happen peachy rosy.
Ooh, man, I had boxing gloves. There was a period of time, there was about a 3 or 4 year period where we had job challenges. My wife went through a couple job challenges, and she's always been the more stable of the two with us career-wise. She had a couple. And then I had challenges to where, over a period of time, if you count that we have 24 months of income in a year.
Yeah.
There was years when we only had 17 months of income. And I know there's people out there right now that have been dealing with that because of last year and COVID and everything going on. But those were tough times. Those were definitely tough times. And when finances get tough, they put challenges and pressure on relationships. And in a relationship, you've got to take some time and make sure you connect during the toughest times. You got to connect during the good times too. But when times are tough, you got to stay close.
Yeah.
And you got to work together. And you said that earlier, working together.
But I love what you're saying with your, because I really want to impress upon people what you were talking about with your wife and how you had to fight through some things to get where you want to go. And just because you set out on this journey to get debt free or to reclaim your finances or build wealth, whatever it is, your stage that you're at, saving money, investing, you are going to become someone that the enemy is going to be afraid of. So it is in his best interest to try to keep you in bondage and keep you enslaved, because once you are free, which is the whole point of my ministry, once you're free to serve and free to give and free to bless other people, you are dangerous then, man. When you're starting making your own income and you start owning properties and owning things, you become dangerous. So you are going to have to put on some boxing gloves. You are going to have to fight, but man, the fight is worth it. What are some things that encouraged you through your fight? When you had those tough times, when the income maybe didn't come in some months, what kept you encouraged?
You know what? I think what really kept us encouraged is we always had celebrations of not small, but medium successes.
Ooh, that's a good point. I like that.
So we would do something every time we would drop $10,000 in debt. So if we had 90,000 in debt, when we got below 80,000, we would go out and do a family dinner. Take the family out to eat, because we weren't going out to eat other times. But what that did is it got the kids involved. And so they started knowing, ooh, if we turn the lights off, we're going to go out to eat sooner.
Yeah.
And more. If we do this, if we do that. So they started thinking about it. And, it became a family goal. It wasn't just.
That's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that idea. I hope people really heard that, just to celebrate the small victories along the way, because
Yeah.
that's going to give you that momentum to keep going and get the family involved. That's so true. I love that.
Right. Now, I will say this: you don't have a small victory every week, because you start having all those small victory parties,
You find
you're
yourself
going
in
to
bed
defeat
again.
yourself. We were doing those about once a quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. So every 3 months we would do one of those, and we weren't going out to the most expensive place. We were finding BOGO coupons. We were doing places where kids eat free.
Yeah.
And we were going, and it didn't have to be fancy. It was about getting out.
Yeah.
And it was about celebrating, but we didn't just spend.
That's
We
good.
still were smart about it.
Oh, that's good, man. That's
And the whole journey is about being smart with your finances so that at the end you win.
Yeah. I got to ask you another question here, man, because
Okay.
I don't want to keep you too long. We'll wrap up here in a second. I know you're busy
Sure.
too, but what was the craziest thing you did to get out of debt? Did you sell something? Did you make a move that you're like, okay, we need to get this done now? Was there something that you did like that took it to the extreme to get out?
I'm trying. I don't remember anything crazy that we did.
Yeah.
We were steady.
Just keep
We
it
were
steady.
we were the tortoise. We weren't the hare. We became more of a hare every month, because we just saw the momentum. I think for me the biggest thing was this: when I did that net worth statement, every month I would see that debt going down, and I could see the progress. And even if you couldn't fully feel it, and you still saw the mountain there,
Yeah.
the mountain was shrinking. You were getting on top of that mountain. You were gaining control of it.
Right. You're slowly climbing up as you're going.
Yeah. And, I didn't have any big toys or things, after the bankruptcy, I didn't have hardly anything. So we really didn't have a whole lot to sell and to do stuff with. When we would find something and we could sell it, we did, but there was nothing big or major. We didn't have a $30,000 or $40,000 boat sitting around and all sorts of stuff like that. But we just slow and steady started doing things, and just worked a system.
And that's kind of the way we did it too. We just kind of made the changes. We cut a lot of stuff out of our budget. We readjusted. We basically learned to live off of one salary, because at that time my wife was working. So she's a stay-at-home mom now. She's been a stay-at-home mom for about 11 years. But during that time, she wasn't. And so we learned to live off of one salary, and basically her salary was just 100% going to debt. And,
Right.
we did something similar too, like when you talk about that celebration, but our thing was I had listed all the debts out, and then I put it on the fridge because I wanted to be very visible. I wanted to be able to see it. And then I just kept updating. Okay, we got another one down. It was just something about being able to keep it in the forefront and see it and keep checking off as I was going that made it more doable. And like you said, I could see myself climbing that mountain. It just felt so good to be able to check stuff off and keep it visible.
Well, I've seen people do different things, and I encourage people, be creative in a way that'll motivate you. Like, I've seen people, if they got $100,000 worth of debt, they'll get a poster board and they'll put 50 bricks on there. Each brick is worth $2,000. And every time they pay $2,000 off, they fill in a brick, or they fill up a chart, or they do something creative.
Yeah, I like that. Get creative,
They
man.
can look at. Yeah. And again, if you've got kids and can get them involved, it's a powerful lesson. If your kids can learn how to live below their means and learn the value of a dollar. My daughter, I mean, we've seen her at a garage sale find something for $2 that might retail for 80 or 100. And she's like, oh yeah, can I get that? And then we'll see the same thing, and she'll go, look, Dad, this thing was, $100, $80, $60. And she's proud of herself for finding the deal. So I like the fact that we can get the kids involved, because, there's going to come a point in time I'm not going to want them in my house.
Speak on it.
Yes, sir.
Just as long as don't let them hear that, do they?
No, listen, they need to move
Yeah.
because that's how they grow. They're not going to fully grow living under my roof all the time.
Yeah, gotta kick
And
the baby birds out the nest.
yeah, that's how eagles go. They get kicked out of that nest and they have
Yeah.
to learn how to fly. And that's something that I have fully intended on having my kids do is go and live on their own and do their things.
No, that's so good. That's so good,
I
man.
want them to be successful, and they're not going to be successful if they're being coddled and babied all the time.
Right. They have to see it, and they get more out of seeing that journey that you guys have been on than anything else. Anything else you could tell them, right? Because the seeing it and then being a part of it is so true. I know some creative things I did to try to get out of debt is that we did we at the time I was we had some other families from the churches and things that were going on, and so we found another guy from the church that had a big warehouse, and so we were like, look, we're gonna do a multi-family garage sale, and we packed this warehouse out, did a bunch of advertising. I think I made a good $400, $500, $600 or something from that garage sale because I had brought a bunch of big ticket items. But these are the kind of things people can do. You just got to get creative and keep moving forward, man. But hey, this has been good, man. I really enjoyed our conversation, man. I don't want to keep you too long, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and I'm going to definitely have you back. That's without question now, because we got to dive into so much other stuff. But I always do something called key takeaways at the end, where we just kind of share your key thoughts and just of the message and what we've talked about today that you want to leave people with. For me, the key takeaway for me out of our conversation was I love the idea of just listening to God as you're moving through this process. That kept coming up a lot, I think, in the conversation as you're telling your story. Working in unity with your spouse, listening to God as he directed you to do certain things, continuing to sow, continue to change your mindset, and just slow and steady wins the race, and you will get out of debt. You will be absolutely free. What's a key takeaway for you from our conversation today?
I think the one thing I want to leave people with is this. Don't get discouraged. And remember the saying that Pastor Poe used to tell us all the time: I will not quit, therefore I cannot be defeated. So don't quit. Keep fighting.
Amen.
And
Amen.
enjoy the journey.
Amen. No, that is awesome. That is awesome. And if you're listening to this or watching this, if you're a member of my private Facebook group, if you want to learn how to get out of debt, if you go to the units tab there's a whole complete free lesson where I walk through different techniques of how to get out of debt. It's there. All you got to do is listen to it. There's workbooks and pages that go along with it. You go through the process and sign up, and all that stuff will get automatically sent out to you. So if that's something you're dealing with, you're struggling with, the resources are there. Go look at them, go watch them. Please feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Craig, whatever, that's fine. So if you need some assistance, you got some questions with that, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. If you need prayer, encouragement, reach out. That's what we want to do. So just thank you, Craig, again. This has been an awesome conversation, my man. Appreciate you for coming in and sharing your debt journey. And just sharing, encouraging folks that they too can move past the storm as well. So I appreciate it.
Ephraim, thank you so much for having me. God bless you. And look forward to talking with you again soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, well, as always, it's been your man, Ephraim Jackson with the Wealth Exchange. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I will catch you at the next episode. And always remember, who the sun sets free is free indeed. Break every chain that binds you. Get free. Later.